All right. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Nash, as that says on screen. But before we launch into any kind of session talking about code and boring stuff like that, you guys just had lunch, so come on, let's all stand up. Let's wake up again after lunch. Come on, let's everybody get up, have a bit of a stretch. I'm not going to carry on until you all do it. I promise. I'm absolutely serious about this. Let's have a stretch. I want you to do one other thing, actually, whilst you're standing up, because it's much easier like this. Get your phones out your pockets and turn them on loud. I don't like to have other people's days interrupted by me giving a talk. I want to hear if you're getting a text message or a phone call. Actually, this will be important later, so turn it on loud, pop it in front of you. I'm not going to put mine on loud yet, just because that's going to get embarrassing. I get a phone call and have to kill that. Anyway, so we've done that, so thank you very much. Take a seat, and let's get on with this. Can I? So I am Phil Nash. That's a smaller version of my name that we just had, but my name's Phil Nash. I'm a Twilio developer evangelist here in London. I joined recently, three months ago. And Twilio, if you don't know, is a cloud communications platform that allows you to send and receive text messages or make and receive phone calls using the tools, languages, frameworks that you already know, you already understand. That's going to become important a bit later as well. And so I'm here to talk to you today about the future of web APIs. You might have noticed on your lanyard program that the name under this is Paul Hallett. He's my colleague, and was sadly unavailable, fell a little bit ill recently, so I'm here in place, so really want Paul to get better soon. I'm also actually very excited to be talking at Future Web Apps, because this was the first conference I ever went to when I joined the industry about 7 years ago, so it's an absolute pleasure to be up on stage in front of you guys now, even though sadly to the detriment of Paul, so as I say, hope he gets better. So we're talking about the future of web APIs. Now I've heard people say web APIs already today, so I just want to do a quick kind of what I don't mean by that. And that certainly is things that Bruce mentioned, Ruth mentioned, Florin mentioned, and that's not the web API in the browser. I'm not talking about audio APIs, geolocation, vibrating things, any of that kind of thing. I'm also not talking about the ASP.NET Web API framework, which I found when Googling web APIs to find out what else I might have misled you into thinking. Though that will help create things if C# is your bag. I'm talking simply about kind of HTTP APIs, those external services that we can use to do other interesting things across the web from our applications. So in order to look at the future of web APIs, we should probably take a look at the past. And obviously, the web is actually fairly young, as we know, so it's only really the recent past. But to me, it all seems as though APIs and web APIs seem to start as an afterthought, which is a bit of a shame, because they can be very useful, but that's what we had. We had big services kind of appear and then suddenly go, we'd like other people to have a play with this as well. Here's an API. So for example, Facebook launched their API about 6.5 years ago, back in 2007. And I don't know if you remember the first version of the Facebook API and if you worked with it at all, but that was rather painful. I was working in an agency at the time, and doing any kind of interaction, any kind of integration with the Facebook API was an absolute hassle to me, and it always took longer than it ever needed to. But it did produce some good things. It produced Farmville, so we all hated all of our friends for inviting us to that kind of thing. And it produced some companies that have actually been very successful. Zynga, obviously, with Farmville and other such things. So an API like that was useful, even though it was an absolute pain. Similarly, Twitter, 2006, right when they were very early on, did get out an API, and that is probably one of the reasons that was not the best kind of designed API. It was a little bit, it was similarly hard to use, although it was probably better than Facebook. The flakiness was down to Twitter itself as opposed to the API. And it's very easy to do something with the Twitter API. I don't really like code on slides that much, so let's actually do this for real. That's just going to drop into a Ruby library, Ruby terminal here. So if you don't like Ruby, I'm apologizing for this because you're going to see a little bit of it today. But it should be fairly easy to see. So if you want to make a tweet with Twitter, all you have to do is create their REST client. Live coding, let's go. And kind of one of the things that you notice instantly from, that's all I've forgotten. I also need to require some of my credentials into here so I can actually do this. What you'll notice from the this kind of setup here is that you need an awful lot of secret tokens to do anything with the Twitter API, and that's, I think, because it's stuck now on OAuth 1.0a. So you need a consumer key, a consumer secret, and then to do anything for your own account, you need an access token, and because the consumer's not secret enough, you need an access token secret. But once you've done all of that, like working with it's so easy because you can just say client.update, hi, it's nice to be on stage, for example. Talking to all of you. And that's definitely going to break. And pretty much, if we're lucky enough, over here, we're going to see, yay, right. So Twitter, easy, lovely. It's nice and fun to play with. And that actually leads to sillier things as well, in my opinion. There's some sensible applications. But if anybody remembers Monkey Island, Secret of Monkey Island, my favorite game from my childhood, and so you sword fight with insults, and so one evening after the pub, I decided that I'd come home and write a Twitter bot that responded to anybody saying something like, you fight like a dairy farmer. And that exists, and it's real, and it's wonderful, because Twitter's fun to play about with this thing. And what's even better about this is finding out recently, when I found the screenshot, is that this bot, this account up here is also a bot that tweets once a day with a different insult. So every day they have a conversation now, which I think is really lovely. But again, this kind of stuff does enhance the Twitter platform, really, and other such companies like Hootsuite, for example, enhance the Twitter application, enhance your usage of Twitter, and other ones, TweetDeck, for example, get bought by Twitter. So it kind of works out well, but it's all about enhancing the third-party application. And this is still happening today, actually. I say the recent past, it's still happening. Just a month, 6 weeks ago or something, Uber launched an API, which again is just a way of using their app, but outside of, but within your own, and actually gaining more value for them necessarily than probably your own applications. So these bolted-on APIs that do make things, nicer for the holding company, were kind of the past and still happening. APIs today, I think we're in a much different world. Firstly, some people are building kind of APIs first. Now, this is very useful if you are planning on building your own website, your mobile apps for each of the different platforms, all that kind of thing. But actually, there's something a little bit more interesting, I think, than just API first. Because that's going to come up with a better designed API, probably, because you're the ones using it. Dog fooding this kind of thing is important. But more likely, things like APIs as products are starting to arrive on the scene in force now. And this is kind of more interesting, because APIs as products start to become useful for building into your app for your purposes, not for the API's purposes. HTTP APIs are the hat in which you can reach into and pull out various different kinds of bunnies. And it kind of reminds me of this recent XKCD cartoon, where there's a seemingly difficult thing, geolocation of a spot, and a seemingly other difficult thing, checking if it's a bird in a picture, and the two things are miles apart, 2 hours, 5 years, and what was I saying? So what with products as APIs, it allows us to be more in this 2-hour section, not the 5 years section, and that is the job of the product to go off and sort. So examples of this include people like Go Cardless. Paying with direct debits is an absolute hassle. You have to send forms to banks and physical stuff, and it's just very difficult to put into your application. So GoCardless make that nice and easy with a very nice HTTP API. This is the same actually for credit card payments to people like Stripe or Braintree, doing exactly the same kind of thing. And similarly, email. I've got SendGrid up here. Obviously, we just had a lovely lunch from Mandrill, so I probably should mention them as well. Email is actually, it's a much harder prospect. I mean, I remember when I started in agencies and we were sending emails from applications and we'd start up a SendMail server and things like that. And you had to pay attention to it, look after it, tweak it to the best of your abilities. But it's a problem that we didn't really want to be thinking about. Whereas SendGrid and Mandrill and other MailJet, for example, will give you a nice HTTP API to send, receive emails. And actually, there's an interesting point there because you can receive as well. And that comes through the webhooks, where the actual service is sending data back to you. And actually, GoCardless have that as well. When you get a payment, you're going to receive a webhook to say, you've been paid this time. And so these API services become this kind of two-way talking mechanism between you and the service to just boost your own applications. I want to just kind of, close to Twilio's heart, of course, is the telephony problem, which is that up until recently, telephony has required you have a massive amount of hardware, which is built by people with specialist knowledge. It's obviously expensive because you've got capital expenditure on that hardware in the first place, and it's very slow to put into place. It can take it can take months, years even, to build up a proper telephony system yourself. And in this world of software and hack days, and we can build an app in a day or a couple of hours or whatever, that's just far too slow and difficult and a hassle. So that's where Twilio comes in, and I just want to kind of use Twilio to show you a little bit about how easy it is to take something as old and as difficult as telephony and put that into a better place. So this is the Twilio website. So get that. This is kind of how it works. And as I was saying with with webhooks earlier, this is kind of how Twilio works. We are still limited by the legacy that you need a phone number to receive phone calls. But when you buy a phone number from Twilio and somebody makes a call to that, Twilio gets in, is just going to send on a webhook onto your application in order to find out what to do with that phone call. And your application responds with a bit of XML. We call it TWIML, which has the instructions of what to do. So let's do that now. I'm just going to buy a telephone number. And this, you'll find out, is why you've got your phones out. So let's get one that's in London here. 203 is a nice local code. I can buy that. And now I have, now I have a phone number. And we can go and set that up. Okay, just copy that. No. Okay, so as I was saying about webhooks, this is where we set up like what happens when Twilio gets a phone call. And so actually, we're going to go with messages first. And so when Twilio gets an SMS from somebody, it's going to make a call to philnash.ngrok.com/messages. If you don't know ngrok, it's a great tunnel to allow external things to get into things on your laptop. So here's the app that's going to hit. We probably should put something together for that. I'm going to use Ruby, again, as I said. This is Sinatra. It makes a very easy way of making HTTP services because it's Ruby A. And as I said, we're going to return XML. So let's put a content type in there. And then to respond to our webhook, all we need is a response. And let's close that as well, because XML. I know people were saying nasty things about XML earlier, but it makes sense in this case. It's just a list of things you're going to do in order. And what we're going to do, I don't know, we're going to respond with a message. If you send a message, that seems nice. So let's say, hi, or thanks for coming to my talk. I'm Nash. This is that's my typing voice. There we go. So if I start that app up, which will be over here, shotgun app And what you should do now is grab those phones that you've got and send me a message to this number. And what you should do, and I'm going to send one to you, so what you should get is a nice, somebody did text me during that. See, I knew it was a good idea not to send my phone on. So the number is +44020 3389 7653. Send me anything. Don't be too rude, because I might get it up on screen later. And give me a shout if your phone goes off. You get a response back. I want to hear it. If the phone goes. Somebody's got one. Yeah, there's mine. Lovely. Is anybody else who's still writing the number? I'll read it out again for you. It's 020 3389 7653. All right. Let's see. Somebody's really got the sounds on. I like it. So you can see we've got some messages coming in. That's good to see. But what we can do is still lovely. Did you get that? Oops. We're getting messages. That's good. It's good. It means live coding does work. And what we can do then is actually use our REST API to go and find out more about those messages. So I'm going to create a new client in this case after I require in our Twilio Ruby library. I'm going to make a new client, which is a Twilio REST client. Now you probably see a bit of a similarity here between the Twitter version and Twilio one, which is nice because these kind of REST clients become very accessible, makes it very useful for developers to use in the first place. Slightly different configuration, but there we go. We have a client, and I can go and get all your messages because they are the messages that the client was sent to my number. There we go. And then I can probably list them out, like I said. Hopefully nobody's been too rude. So we're going to get the message. We're going to put out the message body. And I might just save your phone number for later. That's okay, right? Thank you. Thank you very much for all those lovely messages. The government has been in the... I don't know what you're talking about. You do indeed fight like a dairy farmer. Good. So we have those, but I also have your phone numbers, which is great because I can now phone you back. Let's do that. So I'm going to create a call. It's another simple kind of thing here. I'm going to create it from my number. I'm going to send it to your number, and I need to give it another URL in this case. Because that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to get hit when you answer the phone. It's going to go, what do I do now? So let's make that. Now, obviously, we also don't have that created yet, so I'm just going to pop back and make that as well. Let's post a voice this time. Voice. And this time we actually have a few more options. So content type. We have a few more options because it's a phone call, so we can do things like talk to you. Although in this case, I can actually make robots talk to you if I want with our say command. But you can do other things like you can dial into another number, for example, or a conference, which would be fun if you wanted to all talk to each other right now. But I've got a talk to give, so I'm not going to give you that. You can also do other things like gather kind of phone data and record things. But for right now, I am going to play you some music because that'd be nice. And I'm hiding it behind a bit.ly link so that you don't know what it is yet. And so that is now created and looks correct to me. So I can just finish that there. And your phone should all now start to ring. And then you can pick it up and find out what I've sent to you. It's going to take a little while because it's running through quite a few numbers there. Somebody's ringing. It's a good sign. It's a good start. Anybody else? Yeah! Who's got the embarrassing ringtone we're about to find out, right? I got to wait for mine to at least go off before I carry on. But what are you getting there? Okay. I don't know if you know what I've done for you there, but you're now all like your Apple subscribers because that is track 1 from Songs of Innocence. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how you get U2 onto everybody's phone, not just iPhones. So That's demo time. That's demo time. Thank you for that. Working with HTTP APIs, things like that, it should be fun. It should be easy, and that's why I was able to do that just in a few minutes there. And actually, this is the basic thing you ever need to do. That's just a curl request to say Twilio to make a message. Well, that's a bit ugly, and so I showed you things like our Ruby helper libraries, which are actually much more friendly to use. And we have this in many languages, and so do many of these kind of service API providers nowadays. So this is the Node.js version, if you like your JavaScript on the client side, which some people do. I don't know. So the future of web APIs. The future is that web APIs are here to make you superheroes. They're to make you provide the magic in your applications without spending too much time working out how to do that. So you end up with more functionality, better functionality, and better than the original, because like the telephony things, if you wanted to add recording into a thing, you actually needed another bit of hardware to sit inside of your own stack, and terrible, terrible times. Whereas with us, you just put a record tag in and you're done. And then faster development time. We're going for that. It'll be done in 2 hours, not it'll be done in 5 years. Much happier developers, much happier clients who get all the extra power afforded to them right then. And so this kind of builds on top of things that we've all been doing for developer happiness for years now. Like Rails, for example, came out in 2005, Ruby on Rails. A framework built on Ruby, a language built for developer happiness. Rails was built to make web applications much easier to build. And then you just put APIs in there with those easy-to-call helper libraries for various things. And you have applications appearing in a matter of days and weeks. And the sorts of things you can do just keep on increasing, and that's kind of cool. And your application can be smaller and smaller and smaller, and just let other things do the boring stuff, and your application just concentrates on the problem at hand. And so, yeah, SMS and voice from Twilio, you can do email, SendGrid, MailChimp, whoever. Auth, actually, I have to say, if I can go back to Facebook and Twitter, they have at least made Auth a little bit easier if you can run through their kind of OAuth protocols and things like that. But it would be nice to see some kind of independent or distributed thing that we could use. Distributed Auth is a massive pain point as far as I can see. Payments, real-time, all that kind of thing just bolted into your app so you can concentrate on the hard parts, on the business logic for you. So web APIs in the future are an opportunity. They're that opportunity to make better applications yourself. But actually, there are, of course, these opportunities to build these services as well. So as long as you can, if you find that difficult to deal with technology or industry or anything, such as we've done with telephony, there is actually the opportunity to spend those years building that service so that everybody else can use it. And if I can just recommend Ian, I can't remember his last name now, damn it. A talk tomorrow afternoon, from Orchestrate.io, I think they're sponsoring as well, where they're kind of reinventing databases as services, and like not just a database, because kind of Heroku has their Postgres Heroku, that's just a straight database connection, but like databases as we want to use them, which includes normal relational stuff, key value stuff, search indexes, things like that. If you can place that all under one friendly API, then there's another opportunity. And I think that they've been doing incredible things. So there are opportunities in different places to look to find where these next services are. And so it's up to us, it's up to you guys to either build those fantastic apps, which you can just concentrate on the apps, or build those new services for the future. Web APIs started off as an afterthought, in my opinion. API first can make it easier to build those multi-platform apps, but it's not the most important thing. We now have them as products, and they are the foundation of our apps, which allow us to think less about the hard and boring problems and think more about the problems that we have to solve day to day. And so I very much look forward to finding out what you guys are building, what you want to build. I think we have plenty of time for questions right now, but please come find me in the pub and the party and everything afterwards. And let's have a chat about what the cool APIs can do for you guys. So thank you very much.